We had to press play because we just went on a rant of Elon Musk, and it turned into, hey, pros and cons of how Elon built his companies and everything in between. And I can't remember exactly what we're talking about, but Garrett was like, we have to start the podcast because this is leading into something that exactly what we're going to talk about.
Hot start.
Let's go. Boom.
No, it was the Doge thing, right?
Yep.
So it
Yep.
was
We
kind
talked
of
about
like
Doge.
he applied principles from his entrepreneurship world into the Doge thing, misapplied them. And I have a story that directly speaks to that. Part of it comes from, we saw this whole Leopold Aschenbrenner situational awareness thing blow up a few weeks ago. We're not going to go into super detail about that, but I was just texting Austin updates and he's like, wow, that's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, short story is young,
$45 billion down to $10 billion.
Down to 10
yeah.
billion. He had to sell off all his public stuff to Ken Griffin, who's
23 years old.
Yeah. He's really young. And Austin was like, hey, let's talk about times where people got over their skis. And talk about why that is.
Because it's happened in history many, many, many times.
That's right. And it continues to happen. This is not a Schadenfreude thing where we're taking joy in the misery of others. This is a learning thing. So this is not us dunking on people like Leopold or
which
anybody.
People would probably want to hear because that's fun to hear when people dunk on people.
Let's just talk about what happened and kind of diagnose
100%.
and try to learn from it. Okay,
yeah.
So one of the things that happened to Leopold Aschenbrenner is things were going well, and he had literally never seen yet a case in which his longs, like the things that he was betting on, had dipped down, and his shorts, the things that he was betting against, also went in the opposite direction. And he kind of just had like a bumpy day, like a moderately bad day. But because he was, 4x levered,
he was overexposed.
He's overexposed. And Ken Griffin, Citadel guy who ended up collecting the entire public side of situational awareness, he has tons of interviews that surfaced after this that were like, hey, I saw traders do this all the time. This is the failure mode. You get yourself into this scenario, and then you don't know how to get yourself out of how to unwind it. And I think that because things had been going so well, there was literally, you had never encountered, it's kind of like the black swan, but this is not even black swan as in that rare, but it's like, I have never seen a scenario in which failure has happened. Things are just going well. And then you continue to assume that trend is going to continue.
And Ken Griffin had seen that multiple times.
So he was just like, I see the failure mode coming up. And he kind of, this is not.
He's also 50 something years old or 60 something years old, right? He's lived a life.
Scars. Yeah. So this is all to say, we wanted to talk a little bit about scenarios in which people got over their skis. They kind of made some poor choices in the moment, or kind of, over time that led to their downfall. And kind of break down why that is. I think one of the core lessons is, if you've never seen failure before, you don't really know that you should be preparing for it. Nicholas Nassim Taleb has this thing that he talks about, which is you can't really predict the probability of an earthquake, for example, but you can definitely model out what would happen if an earthquake happened. So in the case of situational awareness, hey, I don't know how likely it is that all of my stocks are going to dip by 35% tomorrow, but I can model what would happen to my portfolio if that happened. Oh, we're super high, overexposed, highly levered. We're going to have a margin call. Let's adjust the balance of this such that even if this is a rare occurrence, I have some, what Nicholas Nassim Taleb would say, I'm anti-fragile to this. I have some resistance to it. And that, looking forward in the future, that's wisdom, that's experience, that's, having failure before. I think that Leopold is just kind of like, hey, things are going well. Why would I, sell off my winners?
And I know I'm going to be right. I know I'm eventually going to be right. Like, that was the whole thing. Is like
sure.
Exactly. That's the whole point.
It's not like he's wrong. He just wasn't
the timing.
Set up to
the timing was.
That's right. He wasn't set up to survive that moderately bad day.
Exactly.
And you don't want to knock yourself out of the game.
Right. Infinite game.
Okay. So Austin, that is the setup. Do you have some stories that you want to talk about? I want to hear what you found in the Over Your Skis story analysis.
Well, this whole conversation was definitely magnified when I listened to a Morning Brew Daily podcast that they were talking about. I'm going to read this off really quick. It says, a survey done by Betterment showed that about 1 in 4 Gen Z investors treat sports betting as a deliberate part of their financial plans. Okay. Sports betting is a deliberate part of their financial plans. And that's a little scary because you just like, that is like your, and then I have another stat here in a little bit, but I'll get to it. 52% of Gen Z investors have directed funds designated for investing into sports betting at least once in the last year, 14% of millennials, 6% of Gen X, and 1% of boomers. And the reason why that stuck in my head was because I was like, oh my gosh, like with FanDuel, DraftKings, Polymarket, Kraken, or is it Kraken? I don't know, not Kraken, but Kashi.
Kashi's a cereal. Kalshi is the
Kashi. Had some Kashi this morning. Not really. But it's a little unnerving when that is the investment strategy of Gen Zers / people that are coming up, because you're just like, gosh, people are just trying, like betting way a lot. Like obviously when throughout life, we take bets and we're taking small bets, and everything you do is technically like a bet, right? But I think when people start to get really comfortable with taking these bets and just like putting money out there and be like, oh, like I'll bet on this game. And it's kind of like a willy-nilly thing. You're not like, there's not a whole thing where people are like, this guy named Billy Walters, which I can talk about really quick, who was an actual disciplined sports betting outlier.
I just read about Billy Walters. But I need to know more because I just saw the headline of this thing on Billy.
Yeah. So Billy Walters, a professional sports betting outlier, Walters has said he wins only 57% of his bets, which is striking because it shows you need to win about 80% or 90% of the time if you have a genius edge and manage money properly. He reportedly had a roughly 30-year winning streak and told CBS he won $3.5 million on one Super Bowl. Okay? So, and he had all these analysts and all like this whole computer thing set up, data and everything, and he was only winning 57% of the time. And then I have this one last thing, and we can get into more. I want you to talk about what you found, but a UC San Diego study found that more than 700,000 gamblers, only 4% made money from online betting. 4%. 4% of people made money out of 700,000 gamblers. And to me, I'm going to go into a few more getting over your skis and stuff like that later. But like the whole sports betting thing is a phenomenon to me because I did it when I was younger. Right? When I was younger, right out of college, I was like, man, I got some money. I got some, liquid ink. Like I got some stuff that I can actually spend. This is fun. But getting over your skis, and we can talk about other instances, but like for me, it's like when you go too far into that game, like I think that it can be potentially helpful in the short term of like, hey, let me use my psychology. Let me see what I know and use that to make a sensible bet. Right? Austin, because then there's a guy named Art Schlichter, who actually, I got to tell you about this guy. Schlichter was an extraordinary talented quarterback at Ohio State and was selected 4th overall in 1982 in the NFL draft for the Baltimore Colts. He had kind of an athletic career most people could only dream about, but gambling became an enormous problem in his life. His losses led to more gambling, borrowing, deception, and eventually serious legal problems. His NFL career was derailed, and his gambling problems continued long after his playing days were over. So that's another in the opposite direction, is like somebody who was a 4th round pick in the NFL draft allowed gambling to derail his entire life. And I literally just saw an article saying he just had cocaine possession in 2025 and got arrested again and is probably going back to jail for 2 years. So anyways, That is it's kind of like that's my getting over your skis in the
No, it's
term.
good. It's interesting how kind of like all these different versions of gambling are like gambling is an activity that is leverage, right? So it's kind of like you see the Gen Z investors, if you will, that are trying to get big wins. So they're saying, hey, with just a little bit of money, if you get right and you get lucky on the right
On sports
thing,
betting, if I have a 10 team parlay, I can win $100,000. And then you see, and then the other thing that is frustrating here is then you see people like Drake or these huge, and I use Drake as it because they post their bets. The rapper, one of my brother's favorite rappers of all time. I think he's maybe top 10, but that's just me. But this is the thing. People see those bets that they make and they see that they win and they go, I can do that. I could do that. And that's when you get over your skis when it comes to betting too much in the short term.
No, I agree. I think it's kind of like it's a really powerful drug to kind of see that, oh, this is what could happen. It's this get rich
I can
quick
predict
thing.
the future.
Yeah. So when it hits, it hits. That's awesome. But when it's not hitting, you're going to accumulate your losses. And so investing, not really a great thing. You talk about art. I think it's
Schlichter, something like that.
I've heard the story, but it's like, okay, well, if you're allowing something that's that powerful into your life a little bit, okay, well, it's
almost like a teaching tool. It's almost like
it's going to snowball. No, I'm just saying it's going to snowball.
Oh, you're saying the opposite.
No,
I see it as a teaching tool.
You keep bringing up sports gambling as like, oh, this is this great formative time of my life where I was like, oh, I'm just playing around. But I think you are the exception.
Potentially. No, dude, it's interesting. I think you'd be surprised how many people will love sports betting and don't let it control their lives. But there is that teeter. You're walking a line.
I understand, but what I'm saying is, by continuing to hold it in your hands, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to keep playing with fire, and this is okay. Yeah. And I'm saying that by including it at all in your life,
you're risking
the potential that it can grow. And not everyone is susceptible in terms of their willingness or likely risk taking.
Yeah, you got it. You got it for sure.
So this is where you see athletes with what is it? It's like the things that can take down somebody. It's kind of like sex, money, like drinks and drugs or gambling,
women,
and that whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's like tons of stories of people who kind of fall off for whatever reason. It's because they're playing with fire, and the easiest way to do this is to Clay Christensen, HBS professor, wrote this line that it's easier to stick to your principles 100% of the time than 98% of the time. So I'm not saying abstain from all these things. What I'm saying is, okay, as soon as you let a little bit in, then you have this rationalization thing of like, oh, well, maybe, and that's where I think the psychological game of like, oh, I've done a little bit, maybe I could do a little bit more, or I won some, maybe I could do a little bit more. And this kind of like way that human psychology works is, hey, I have this like past pattern, I'm going to apply it to the future. It doesn't always work. And that's where I think the getting over your skis thing is so dangerous, is because you're like, oh, this is great. I'm marching forward. I'm learning from the past. And then all of a sudden, boom, brick wall.
You got it. Yeah. And to your point is putting that restriction on yourself of like having a cowboy account, like from MFM, right? Where it's like, hey, like I've invested all my money into the places I needed to go. I put money towards my Roth IRA. I set aside this for saving, blah, blah, blah. Like, and now, I have $100 to do my cowboy account.
You put it in the fire pit. You take the fire out of your hands, you put it in the fire pit, and you just, and only you can prevent forest fires.
But here, like the one thing in that morning brew daily thing though, is what I'll say is like, they said a lot of Gen Zers don't feel like they have enough money to invest. They're living paycheck to paycheck, and they don't feel like the normal way of investing is going to get them where they want to be as fast as they want to be. So then there's that psychological piece where people are like, I want to get there faster. I need to do this. And it's like,
okay, let's take this segue kind of hard. the boring way, the safe way, the safe approach is something that I don't know what it is, but it just like burns people. Because if they see the quick wins and they're like, I want to emulate that. So I want to tell you about a story about somebody who refused to go the boring way and kind of suffered for it. So have you heard of the name Jean Van de Velde?
No.
Okay. So
Tell
Jean
me more.
was a golfer. And this story goes back to 1999.
Okay.
Previous century, in which on the last hole of the Open Championship, you know, Jean is 33 years old at the time. He had never, he had one European Tour win, but he hadn't really like been on top. He's ranked 152nd in the world, and he's on the last hole, and he just needs a 6. So it's a par 4, so he can double bogey this. Are you a golfer?
I've played. Yeah. So,
okay.
And if you're a professional golfer, like parring a hole or getting a bogey is like very doable.
Yeah, so he needs a 6. He needs 2 over in order to win effectively. Mm-hmm. So he's playing really well. And
he blows up. He blows up.
The safe way, he blows up. The safe way is he could kind of like just chip, approach,
yeah,
chip. That's 3, and he could triple putt.
Yeah.
All right,
easy.
He's got all the time in the world. What he ends up doing is he pulls a driver, shanks it off. Then he has. It went so far right that it landed on the 17th fairway near the water. So he was 190 yards out at this point, and he could have punched out to get back on the course, but he ends up taking out an iron and goes for the green. It like lands in some water, and there's this like classic moment where the ball is kind of half in, half out of a stream, and he's looking at it. He takes off his shoes to go in, and he's like, I think I'm going to hit it from here. And while he's discussing this, the tide rises in this stream, and it covers the ball. So then he has to take the drop and pull, puts his shoes back on.
Yeah.
He ends up shooting a 7 for the hole.
Oh my God.
Some guy who started 10 shots off the lead for the day tied him and won in the playoff.
Wow.
Now, they this guy, Jean, I'm sure he's had to live with this forever. I'm not dunking on him because I tried playing 2 rounds of golf last week, and brother, I'm nowhere near Jean or anybody in this atmosphere, okay? He keeps getting asked about this for decades, and the thing that he said that reminds me of getting too far over your skis is kind of like, I need to win, and I need to win in a specific way in your head, then maybe you're putting the cart before the horse. Mm-hmm. Winning is the actual thing.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to do the boring thing, and the quote is like this. Okay. Sure, I could have hit 4 wedges. Wouldn't they have said he won the Open, but hey, he hit 4 wedges. And on the speed of it, you have a few seconds or a minute or 2 minutes, and you got to assess where you're going to go. He says the shot he actually regrets is the third one, where he went forward at the green instead of chipping sideways to safety. He was thinking about, hey, in that moment, his judgment was being clouded by perceptions of other people rather than the actual target. And so he let some other stuff get in the way of his decision making that prevented him from achieving the goal, because he thought, oh, there's a way that I need to go about this. And so I think it ties back into this mentality of, I don't want to go the safe way because, I just want to win big. I want to win quick. I don't want to have to, go through this hard season of saving and living paycheck to paycheck and building up my nest egg, and then eventually it'll be able to snowball in late age. I want to have that freedom now. And in John's mind, he had some way of like, I want to be a winner, and I want to be this type of winner. And it's like, you can choose to be that type of winner, but that's a riskier approach.
John watched Tin Cup way too many times. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
Okay. So that's your homework, because you literally just described the movie Tin Cup. And I wanted to see when Tin Cup was made, because it's a Kevin Costner movie. And in Tin Cup, I'll tell you, Tin Cup was made in 1996. This happened in 1999.
He could have watched the movie.
No, he did.
No, he could have.
He relived the movie from what you told me because he did it in 1999.
He could have watched the movie.
Exactly. So, the homework. It's a good movie. It's very good. Not his like best. It's not like Field of Dreams, but it's a great movie. In Tin Cup, Kevin Costner, same mentality. He was like, if I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win because I went for it. I'm not gonna win because I'm
not playing it safe.
I'm not playing it safe. And so there's a scene at the end of the movie. Do you want me to tell you or no? I'll tell you.
You've spoiled everything.
Spoiler alert.
If you want to watch Tin Cup, it's been 20 yees. Sorry, it's been 30 years.
30 years.
Sorry. The 90s were 30 years ago.
That's wild. He's Kevin Costner. I won't give you too much backstory, but he was basically a pro turned like loser. Then he came back to the pros, and he's about to win like the PGA championship. He's on the last hole, and all he's got to do is like lay up and get it over. He ends up hitting, like he's at this like water pond. He hits it. He hits a perfect shot. It goes on the green, rolls back into the water. And they're like, it's okay, man. Let's just play it safe. Like, let's just play it safe. His caddy's like, let's play it safe. I think he hit like 10 or 15 balls, and they all went into the water. And then eventually he hit a ball, and it went into the cup, and everyone went nuts. So he loses.
He loses, but like he did it on his terms?
100%. Yeah. So the exact same thing, but like, so he literally kept dropping, and Kevin Costner's like, nope, I'm going to do it my way. I'm doing it my way. And then eventually nails it in the cup, and everybody goes crazy, and he gets the girl and all these other things. So anyways, your story, Jean's story, literally he watched Tin Cup too many times.
I got to go watch Tin Cup, but I think, we got a couple different flavors of these getting over your skis stories. Yes. I want to tie back one more story to the original thing that made me so fired up to start recording here. So we have people that are like taking something that's good maybe, or taking something and just letting it go too far, or like maybe taking something that's not so good, sports betting, and letting it in at all. You have people who are putting, not putting the major things, making the minor things major kind of thing, like letting stuff get in the way. Or perceptions of people get in the way of just accomplishing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I want to talk about is the getting over your skis moment of, if you've never seen failure before, or if everything that you've done in the past has worked for you, then why not just keep doing that thing? And this is the most dangerous version of getting over your skis. And I think it's the closest analogy to the situational awareness thing. It's the closest
self-awareness.
Self-awareness. Maybe you should have named the fund Self-Awareness. But they didn't have that.
That's our fund. Our fund, Self-Awareness.
Self-Awareness.
Taking money.
That's right. And then the close analogy to the Doge thing, where Elon comes into a government organization and applies startup principles. It doesn't work the same. I want to tell you about, this is something that came up in my research, and I was like, oh, I did a case on this at HBS. Do you know the name Ron Johnson?
No, I know.
Okay, there's so many Ron Johnsons in the world.
I was going to say, that sounds...
Specific Ron Johnson was the Ron Johnson that was brought in to be the CEO of J.C. Penney in 2011. Okay, so Ron Johnson was a star in the retail world. So he worked in Target in the 90s, and then he kind of was the guy who built out the Apple stores, including the Genius bars. That was kind of his claim to fame, was that he kind of built up these success stories of really profitable retail businesses.
Okay. JCPenney was one of my mom's favorite places, I feel back in the day.
Okay, it was, and I'm going to tell you why it stopped being your mom's favorite place to shop. Because of Ron Johnson. Okay, so Ron Johnson got recruited to run JCPenney because they were doing okay. He got brought in, and the announcement of Ron Johnson getting brought in, the stock went up 17.5% on the day of the news. So everyone's like, Ron Johnson's going to come in. and he's going to save the day. This is amazing. So he came in and he said, well, what's going on here? Now, JCPenney, if you remember, everything is on sale at JCPenney.
Yeah.
Basically, 72% of the merchandise sold at a discount of 50% or more. How is that possible? Well, what happened is they would just mark things up and then show a discount. Only 0.2% of sales happened at full price, meaning that like the entire store was just like covered in here's a sale, here's a sale, here's a sale.
Who doesn't love a good deal?
So your mom and many of the other like core shoppers of JCPenney, this is what they love. This is what they love doing is they went in and they were like hunting for a deal.
Hunt.
But
they love the hunt.
Ron Johnson is like, this whole fake price racket thing is not really, it's not actually saving
Working?
the customers money.
Okay.
He basically was like, it's dishonest and it's not really doing anything because all it's doing is it's just kind of like, we're just fake manipulating the prices. So he killed the whole thing.
It's like just one thing. It's like going to the grocery store and everything has the yellow sign that's like,
that's right.
Boom. So that's what makes me think of. Anyways, killed the whole thing.
And so he was like, hey, honestly, I think that this is dishonest and dumb. Let's just like kill this and we're going to announce fair and square pricing. So, 6 months after he comes into the seat, he says everyday low prices, no coupons, and a 3-tier structure of prices. So there's no promotions, right? Like they have like the seasonal sales to try to bring people into the store. And he kind of like took the old kind of dated layout and he zhuzhed it up a little bit to make it more like boutique.
Threw some sauce on it.
And he stopped advertising. Because in his mind, it was like, okay, we're going to elevate the experience of JCPenney. But what he did, not just by like changing, like what it looks like, but by getting rid of all the sales, even though they're fake sales, he went against the reason why most people went to JCPenney in the first place, which was
100%.
They had been trained for like 100 years of this store existing to hunt. They don't want the honest price. They want the feeling that they found a deal. So here's the results. Pause. Ron Johnson is going to do this thing. And people at JCPenney were like, hey, like, what do you think about testing this? And he was like, we didn't test it.
Don't need to test.
Because his past experience was, hey, just make a sweeping change, roll it out, and then if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, then we'll just live to fight another day. Guess what?
I'm guessing it didn't work.
Revenue was down 24.8% year over year. Its revenue was the lowest since 1987, and same-store sales were down 25% for the year, 30% in Q4. And online sales even went down, and they operated at a net loss for 2012, $985 million. Okay.
You're fired, Ron.
So he got fired.
Got the axe.
And they brought back the man he replaced, who brought back the coupons, but, they ended up, dying out, never really succeeded. Ron Johnson is one of those business cases at HBS that you look at and you're like, what would you do in this scenario? You got brought in, you're a leader, the company's kind of like languishing. Do you make a big sweeping change or do you make this incremental improvement? And he was the edge case of you just make a big sweeping change. That's not the lesson, is that big sweeping changes are bad. The lesson is Ron Johnson is applying his mental framework of this is what I've done in the past that's led to success. This is what I'm going to do going forward because this has worked for me. And that's why I've gotten to the position that I've gotten to, is because I keep doing this thing and I keep being right. That's the most dangerous version of getting over your skis, is applying lessons from the past when the context is slightly different. But it doesn't appear to be very different.
It's so true. It's so true. That's awesome. I love that. The way you put that is when the context is different. Just because you created Apple doesn't mean you should think that Segways are going to take over the world like Steve Jobs did. It's the same thing, right? The exact same thing, to your point, is Ron was using what he thought worked everywhere else. And my opinion, my thought process is like, I've thought through everything. I know it's going to work. It worked over here. It worked over here. It worked over here. It's definitely whatever I'm saying is going to work here because I know what I'm talking about. Dude, that's such a good example.
And when Ron walked in, so here's one of the great parts about the HBS case method is they often bring back protagonist being the central character of a case. In the cases where it's a failure case, I say failure because it's like, oh, that didn't work out. He got fired, number go down, bad. In business school, number go up, good. So usually the people who are the winners in these cases, they come back. It's hard to find people who are willing to be open about these mistakes or kind of like situations that kind of go downhill. Ron Johnson came back to HBS, and then they showed us the video of when he showed up on campus in like the 2010s.
Okay.
So after he got fired. And he was surprisingly open about the scenario, and he talked a lot about what he was thinking in the moment. And yes, it's retrospective, so you can't really, you can't really get into his mindset when he was there. But he did say, hey, I didn't really recognize the ways in which the situation had kind of evolved and all of the things that he was taking forward. He didn't evaluate them in their new context to kind of make the next best decision. He wasn't completely like, hey, I made a big mistake. He kind of stands by like the successes he had in the past, and he thinks that the decision he made for JCPenney was right given his business knowledge. But it's interesting. It's like he didn't really take full responsibility for it.
Yeah.
But he did kind of admit that there was some stuff that he could have done better, which I think was like, dude, kudos to him for coming in and speaking to hundreds of MBAs who are just going to be like, they're just been dogging him for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And then he sends up and says, hey, thanks for talking about me in my life.
And before that, just my thought to back up Ron a little bit on this is they brought Ron in because JCPenney was kind of going down before Ron came in. Mm-hmm. So that's where, to your point, I think if they would have tried it out at a few locations just to see if it would have worked, that would have been great. But like, I'm sure in Ron's head, he's like, okay, if our company's going down and it's steadily going down, we've got to do something radically different. And that's what he tried to do, and it didn't work. And so to your point, it's like, hey, you can still try to do something radically different, but try it in like little subsets. Yeah. And I think that's important.
So this is a leadership lesson is you can't prove the counterfactual that if Ron Johnson had done it in a subset of stores, would it have failed the same way? Maybe not. Maybe it's geographically different. We don't know what could have happened otherwise. I think the lesson going forward is there is something about being in a position like a commission bias. If you're in a position of authority or expertise, there's this bias to give input, to do something, but sometimes maybe the best thing is kind of nothing. So he was brought in as the savior. The stock bumps in the day that it gets announced that he's coming in. He's thinking, I got to make this, grand sweeping gesture in terms of making a splash as a leader. This is my opportunity. I'm the new CEO. I'm going to turn things around. I'm going to change the company. All of those things mixed, plus his past experience of what worked to create this like perfect concoction of he is going to do something that totally dismantles what made JCPenney successful. Now it was going down, but he took kind of the secret sauce out of it without realizing it because he came in trying to do something big and take a big hit. I don't think that he made necessarily the wrong decision if I was Ron Johnson sitting in the seat. But what I do think is, okay, this conversation is supposed to get everyone's alarm bells raised. I want your spider senses to go up because you're walking in and we're always on autopilot. We're like, this has been working and I want to do this the same way. Like, hey, success begets success. Your alarm bell should be going up as your context changes because you can't apply the same patterns to new context and expect the exact same results.
For sure. No, I agree. And then also on top of that, if you want to try to do something different in a new space, in a new context, do it in a subset instead of a sweeping thing, potentially. Obviously, hey, everybody can do whatever they want, but maybe test it. And if it doesn't go well in a small subset, it's like, all right, well, let's maybe test it over here. Let's test it over here. And then when you do that, it's like, okay, you don't have to completely, change everything all at once. But like you said, like it makes so much sense. Like people get so excited / they start to believe themselves more than anything, especially like you said, entrepreneurs, because, and what we were talking about earlier is just like when you have run through a wall 100 times and you've made it through that wall and you came out on the other side and that wall has been reinforced sometimes, you think I can run through that next wall because I know I'm going to be right. Like that's what you start to think.
That's right. And so it's just a trap. It's a trap for you to say you're going to see a wall and you're going to run through it. This is not decision coaching for anyone. It's just like highlighting this is why it happens so frequently. And human nature lends itself into people getting over their skis. The ways that you can try to avoid it have to do with just recognizing your tendencies, recognize your patterns and be like, okay, does that still apply? Yep, I'm still me. Let's go. Right?
And usually,
that's a good answer.
Yes, but and to your point, I go back to just age as also is a thing as well. When you're younger, you're going to think you're right more often than not, and that's not a bad thing. Like that's the thing is like Ken Griffin versus Leopold, the age difference is like 30 or 35 years or something, or maybe even 40 years. And so that's one thing that you just don't have the reps sometimes to understand what has happened in life. And so like you could be very, very passionate and say, I know this is going to work. I know this is going to work. And sometimes it will, but also that's what like, there's no guarantee. That's what, yeah.
That's right. Learn from history.
Learn.
You're doomed to repeat it.
And you'll learn through your experiences over time. The one thing I just wanted to add to it is like, I looked up people who did get burned early in their career, and they are some of the top investors now because they did lose early on in their career. Stanley Druckenmiller, Ray Dalio, George Soros, Paul Tudor Jones. Those people, there are stories of them actually getting burned early in their career, and they kind of learn from that. And since then, they have hedged / been better investors.
Just applying it to their new content.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you for that last note.
No, dude, that was good. I love that one. We rambled, we taught, we educated, we hopefully everybody enjoyed that one. That's all we got. What do you think? We're done?
Does a bear shit in the woods?